Welcome to the Friends with Money podcast, brought to you by Money Magazine, creating financial freedom for Australians since 1999. Please remember that the views and opinions expressed in this podcast are general in nature, and further independent advice and research based on your personal circumstances should be sought before making an investment decision.
Welcome to this episode of Friends with Money. Financial planning is something we all need to do, whether it's on our own or with a professional. The value of a professional planner is something the Financial Planning Association is keen to promote and to celebrate. For this year's Financial Planning Week, October 4th to 9th, it commissioned some research to find out how Australians were feeling about their money situation in 2021. Some of the trends it found were that many Australians have built their savings this year and have taken the time to focus on their financial health. Today, I'm joined by CEO of the Financial Planning Association, Dante De Gori. Thanks for joining me today, Dante.
Thanks for having me.
Dante, you've just released from the Financial Planning Association some research. And who was included in the research and what was it done for?
So look, every year we conduct some research as part of Financial Planning Week. And this year, it's our 21st year of running Financial Planning Week. And being a national event, we like to engage with the Australian public. So we do a bit of research to help understand, basically get a bit of a pulse of the nation, if you like, in terms of how what they're thinking, and in particular, obviously, in these current times, how Australians have felt, reacted as a result of being part of the COVID pandemic. So in terms of the research itself, it was considering around 2,000 Australians aged between 30 and 65 years of age. We looked across a number of industries that people were involved in and covered areas of technology, financial services, healthcare. And in terms of the makeup, we were across the country in terms of all states, in terms of the respondents. So we got response from all over the country. So it's a national piece of research.
And so what were you hoping to find out this year?
Well, look, we conducted a similar piece of research last year, and that's, obviously it was year one of the pandemic, and to get an understanding of how Australians were feeling and what they were doing. And so we wanted to sort of this year, just see year two of the pandemic, what has happened since then. There was a lot of reflection, if you like, from Australians about being in this situation, being thrust into this environment where, potentially out of a job, unknown factors about, what does all this mean for the economy? We had initially a dip in terms of the markets as well, who were not sure about, how to really factor in this pandemic. So we wanted to sort of see, what the information we got last year around what Australians were saying, 12 months on, how are they feeling? Are they feeling the same? What actions have they taken? So what happened last year was a real catalyst for some people to say, look, I really need to get my finances in order. I really need to have, some sort of emergency set of funds that I can access. And so in saying that, 12 months on, I'm going to have people taking action. Have people done something about it? What has the behaviour been?
And what surprises have come out of the research this year for you?
Well, look, the good news is that most people that have responded to the survey have indicated they've tried to do something, or they've done something in terms of their situation. A financial health check, if you like, trying to understand the situation, looking at areas in which they can control. So, their spending habits, trying to save, and also looking at their debts. Obviously, one of those areas in which Australians, one of the things that we all would struggle, obviously, without an income is those things, that those bills and debts must continue to be paid. So Australians have really looked at their situation, and many have indicated things, have really scrutinised the things that they've spent money on and questioned whether they, do they need to spend that? Do they really need to have that subscription or have that or purchase that item? And so they're making those decisions, and I think reevaluating, some of their lifestyle choices. Some forced upon us, obviously. We can't travel, we can't do a few things, but also equally, I think some of the data more broadly has shown us that obviously we're spending a lot more money online as well. So again, it's interesting to see whether people are going to substitute perhaps some habits pre-COVID, to some new different spending habits post-COVID. I think that's to be seen. But what we do know in this research that many people have really scrutinized where they're spending their money, and are making choices about saving more and spending less.
And I guess the times are quite funny. Like I remember last year when we first went down into lockdown, people who were homeschooling were very focused on making sure that they followed the curriculum. But this year when we went down again, they just thought, like, I'm going to give it up. That's too hard. Did you get any of that kind of feeling that, last year was different? People took things a bit seriously, but now, it's getting too hard to go through it all again.
Well, I mean, I think you're right in terms of maybe some of the behavioural aspects of the way we live our life. I think the survey itself is very much more directed at how they've made financial decisions. But I think, perhaps a connection there is that definitely we did this research very recently. So there is a level of optimism around, where we're going, so rather than where we've come from. So maybe to your point, I mean, I obviously just even in my own circle of family and friends, I mean, this whole thing about homeschooling, not being able to, really, get out of the home and do things that make you happy, and a part of balance in life. For some people have obviously struggled more than others. And I think the debate that's happening around the medical vaccines and the COVID cases, etc., move that aside for a moment. Most people want to get back to some form of normal life. And I think too, people want to have control, and that's the same thing in their finances. It's like at the end of the day, we want control in our lives. And so, and against what we say and what the survey is telling us is that we can't control the medical scenario. We can't control, whether what the medical advice is going to be and what politicians are going to do. But what you can control is what you do with your money. And I think this survey is showing us that Australians want to help themselves, and some of them want to help themselves 100% of the time, and some want to help themselves, but also get access to a professional that can help them as well.
So how do you see the importance of getting a financial planner for people at this time?
Well, look, I think, it's really important from our perspective that Australians have choice. And so what we're saying and what this research is telling us is that, Australians are making decisions around, putting together a budget, putting together a savings plan, deciding to pay down debts, putting away emergency funds. So Australians are very conscious of those things. Some are going to be better equipped to do it themselves. Some are going to need help. And we are saying to people, access support where you can. And if you can, obviously we would suggest that people seek the services of an FPA member. And again, in some cases, some people may need that service ongoing. Some people may need that as a one-off, and they can set them on their path. But whichever approach, we encourage people to take action. I mean, the main thing we don't want people to do is to realize they need to do something, know exactly what, in effect, they need to do, but not do it. And so whatever can get them to make action. So whether it's information in a magazine, whether it's accessing an online tool, or whether it's speaking to a qualified professional, we're just encouraging people to take that step. And our members are ready, willing, and able to help as many Australians as possible. And in fact, again, one of the things that this research has shown us is that the pandemic, as bad as it has been, has actually created a real positive appreciation of what financial planners do, but probably, almost a light bulb moment for many Australians saying, yes, I now understand and appreciate the need to have my financial affairs in order. And I know now and appreciate, the value of what a financial planner can do for me. And I think before the pandemic, people might have intuitively known that they've got to do something with their finances, or they should, they keep putting down the track. It's too hard. How do I do it? Who do I kind of trust? that sentiment slightly has changed. I mean, as an example, I mean, the research tells us about, there's 2.6 million Australians who are saying that they will go seek advice in the next 2 years. I mean, that's amazing. Our challenge is that, do we have enough financial planners to be able to service that demand? So, we're in a unique scenario here where the supply demand chain issue is in the wrong way around, in that in some respects, I mean, the demand is increasing and the supply is decreasing. We really need to balance that out going forward.
Well, we've often been given research that says that people who have a financial advisor, they speak very highly of the value of financial advice. And for a long time, other people didn't realize what advisors do, but you're now saying that the pandemic has helped people realize the value of advice. It's a good thing.
Oh, it's definitely improved it. I think, there's, I don't want to sound like it's a game over here and our work is done. It's not. There is a lot of work still to be done because we have issues of affordability as well. But I think there is definitely a greater appreciation and understanding that advice is important, and seeking the services of a professional is the way to do it.
So for people who really don't know what an advisor does, what does an advisor do?
Well, it's a great question. I think most people, when they think of a financial advisor or planner, they're thinking investment, stock picking, and things like that. And there's someone who's going to make money for me. And I think it's the wrong way to look at it. A financial planner, in some respects, I equate them to almost like as a personal trainer. They set in place for you a goal, a target of what you want to achieve. They put together a plan on how you're going to achieve it. And they're there with you, by your side, helping you achieve that plan. And they're there to also pick you up when you fall down. And they're there also to help adapt your scenario and your plan if things change, if there are other changes that might impact the ability to achieve that plan. So financial planners are really having to be across a whole bunch of areas: taxation, superannuation, insurance, social security. And I think it's really important that, again, for many of your listeners, the role of financial planner there is not only to help you be in financial control of your scenario, of your situation, potentially build and accumulate wealth, but to protect it, and to protect you and your family. And this is one of the things that I think gets downplayed quite a bit. But being insured, being able to protect your life and your family is one of the most fundamental things you can do for your family. And a financial planner can help you do that. Insurance plays a pivotal role there to ensure that, in the unlikely event, but in any case, in the event that something like an illness or an injury occurs to you or your family members, you're able to concentrate on either grieving or supporting the person that may be injured or suffered an illness, and not have to worry about your finances. So, yeah, I can't speak highly of the importance that financial planners play in both the creation but the protection of the family.
Dante, Financial Planning Week is now in its 21st year, and it actually started around the same time as Money magazine was launched. And, I've been talking lately to the founder of the magazine, Paul Clitheroe, about the changes that have happened with our readership in the past 20 years. And, he said that people have become a lot more aware of their finances and of financial literacy. There's a lot more information available. But he's also been surprised at how complex the financial landscape has become, the glut of products available that are quite complicated. Where do you see that financial advice is most important these days?
Yeah, look, it's an evolving aspect of our life, an evolving role of financial advice as well. I mean, the practice of financial planning, the areas in which financial planners are required to be experts in or have knowledge in, just seems to continue to grow and grow. There's the pure technical side of things. So, the understanding of superannuation, tax, social security laws, as an example, the complexity of products in the marketplace. But then also this aspect of understanding, and in particular, as part of the training these days, behavioral economics or behavioral science, in which really understanding the behavior of individuals and the mindset of individual behavior when it comes to making financial decisions. So the role of the financial advisor is becoming even more and more important, especially as the world becomes, as it seems to be, a lot more complicated and bigger. So as much as technology and information that's accessible and available to us all is great, it also creates an enormous pile of information and tools and resources that sometimes makes it harder to make decisions or harder to engage with. And so this is where a financial planner can really help. I mean, sometimes it's too much for us to be able to make the decision because we don't want to make the wrong decision, or we just don't know where to start. And so this is where speaking to a professional who lives in this world day in, day out, who has experience in these matters, and also is up to date on everything that's going on, whether it's not just, everyone thinks about the markets. It's not just that. I mean, there's constant changes around products, but also legislation and rules. And I think it's really important that you have someone who's in tune with that. You know, it's their job to be in tune with that, and actually it's their obligation to be up to date on that. And so therefore, I think it's this convergence, if you like, of complexity and someone who can help bring that together.
And finally, Dante, what are your top 3 tips on getting on top of your finances post-pandemic and in general?
Well, look, they're very simple, but the 3 tips that I would be putting in front of anyone is firstly, this one is is one that I think most people say it's a complete no-brainer, but spend less than you earn. Create a budget, manage your cash flow. And I know people say, well, what type of tip is that? Well, it's one that you have to do. And so creating a budget can help you because, again, it's one of those things where people take it for granted, but when you actually do look into it, some people aren't managing that process, and having a budget can help you do it. So spend less than you earn, create a budget to help you do that. Tip number 2, pay down your debts. When I talk about debts, it's your bad debts in particular. Your mortgage, your credit card, your afterpays. Get rid of those store cards, pay those down, get rid of them. And the third tip is, of course, seek the services of a professional, an FPA member, to help you beyond that as well. So 3 tips: spend less than you earn, pay down your debt, and seek professional advice.
Thank you, Dante. Great advice. And thank you for joining me today.
Great. Thank you for having me, Julia.
You've just been listening to Dante De Gori, CEO of the Financial Planning Association. We hope that you enjoyed this episode, and please remember to subscribe to Friends with Money wherever you listen to your favourite podcasts.
Thanks for listening to the Friends with Money podcast. For credible, independent and easy to understand financial commentary, visit moneymag.com.au.